For most of my medical training, I was taught something very clear. Personality is stable. Personality disorders are enduring. Traits are fixed patterns of behavior. You can manage them, you can medicate symptoms around them, you can build coping strategies, but fundamentally, this is who the person is. And for a long time, I believed that. It made sense within the framework I was trained in. But over the years, through clinical lived experience, through my own inner work, through studying nervous system science and attachment theory, I began to notice something. Patterns shift, not superficially, fundamentally. Black and white thinking softens when safety increases. Emotional volatility settles when repair occurs. Overperformance reduces when abandonment fear resolves. Hyperindependence relaxes when trust returns. These are not cosmetic adjustments. They are structural recalibrations of the nervous system. So the question becomes, if traits can soften, if attachment styles can reorganize, if reactivity can diminish, is personality truly fixed? Or is personality patterned protection? Let's be precise. Personality is the consistent way your nervous system learned to survive. It is the set of adaptations that kept you safe. If you grew up in an unpredictability, you may have become hypervigilant. If love felt conditional, you may have become a high achiever. If emotional expression felt unsafe, you may have become controlled and composed. If chaos surrounded you, you may have become the stabilizer. We label these as traits, but underneath them are survival strategies. And survival strategies are not identity. They are adaptations. The old diagnostic model used this multi-axis system to separate clinical disorders from personality disorders. Personality disorders were often described as enduring and inflexible. But here's what we now comprehend through neuroscience. The brain is plastic. Attachment is dynamic. Regulation is trainable. And when emotional charge is metabolized, behavioral rigidity reduces. I've watched it happen in real time. I have experienced it myself. There were aspects of my own personality that I believed were fixed. I thought I was simply black and white until the attachment threat underneath softened. Then that polarity dissipated. Not because I forced nuance, because instead safety returned. Now, that's not personality change, although some people would say that you're like a new woman. That is instead nervous system recalibration. And when that recalibration occurs, identity reorganizes. Now, here is where this becomes relevant to you. If you are a high-functioning adult who overperforms in relationships, struggles to switch off, feels responsible for everyone's emotions, craves approval despite its success, and oscillates between strength and exhaustion, you may have just been told, well, that's just your nature. That's just how you are. But what if that is not who you are? What if that is how you learn to survive? The danger in believing personality is fixed is this: you stop questioning it. You build your life around coping strategies instead of healing. You manage your patterns rather than recalibrating them. You say things like, I'm just anxious. I'm just intense. I'm just bad at relationships. I'm just wired this way. And identity solidifies around that adaptation. But adaptation's not destiny. Let me ground this for you. I am not suggesting that we erase temperament. You are not meant to become someone else. This work is not about personality replacement. It's about pattern resolution. Because when abandonment fear resolves, overgiving reduces. When nervous system safety increases, reactivity softens. When emotional literacy develops, suppression becomes regulation. And this is why when self-trust returns, performance decreases. This is why surface level mindset work rarely holds, because the architecture underneath has not shifted. You cannot affirm your way out of nervous system imprinting. You recalibrate it. And this is where structured work matters. Insight alone doesn't reorganize your identity, but repetition does. Safety does. Containment does. Guided integration does. That's why I created 6 weeks to clarity, not as motivation, but as recalibration. It's designed to interrupt pattern survival responses at their root, not by diagnosing you, because that's what doctors do, and I'm not a doctor anymore, but by teaching you how to read your own nervous system, how to metabolize those stored emotions, how to rebuild self-trust, how to return authority to yourself rather than outsourcing it. For some men and women, that work begins with a discovery call, not because I need to convince you, but because safety matters. You matter. Decision safety matters, and nervous systems do not recalibrate through pressure. They recalibrate through clarity. For others, it may begin inside a group container, like the Unpatient Way or one of my masterclasses. Or you may want deeper immersion in Freedom by Design. All different containers, all the same philosophy. You are not a diagnosis. You are not a flaw, and you are not a fixed identity. You are a beautiful human being with a nervous system that learned to survive. And survival is intelligent. But at some point, survival becomes your limitation. The moment you realize personality is patterned, something shifts. Shame reduces. Curiosity increases. Agency returns. Because if patterns were learned, they can be unlearned. If identity formed around protection, it can reform around safety. And when that happens, you do not become someone new. You become someone regulated, someone sovereign, someone who no longer performs to be loved. That's not personality change. That is self-recognition. So, can personality change? Yes, if what you call personality is actually pattern protection. No, if you insist that adaptation is identity. And the difference between those two beliefs determines whether you cope or recalibrate. You are not broken. You are patterned, and patterns can be recalibrated.